Welcome to the Focus Professional Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Lenton, and this is episode 27. Welcome to the Focus Professional Podcast. Today's guest is a Danish photographer, tutor and model who's lived in America, who's now in Sweden, so totally multi-international. I'm very pleased to welcome Sissela Johansson. Hello, Sissela.
Hello.
Nice to meet you. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
It's my pleasure.
So everybody will be wanting to know, of course, have you baked any bread this week?
I love that you brought that up. Actually, as a matter of fact, I did. And I will be begging more.
Great stuff. Yeah. Anything particular?
Well, I have a family function coming up on Saturday, and I have promised to bake bread. And my sourdough is currently doing its thing, trying to rise to the occasion.
Ah, excellent. There. That really is doing it properly then, doing it with a sourdough, very sort of traditional recipe.
I'm a nerd, and so when I tend to find something that fascinates me for a shorter period of time, I will nerd out on it. So I love the process of it, and it's very therapeutical. And these days, I feel like I'm in need of that type of therapeutical behavior.
Yeah, and some people say about kneading bread, it's a good way of getting rid of some frustration.
I have a machine for that. But yes, it is true. It is true.
So you've recently moved to Sweden from America, originally from Denmark. So you get around a bit.
Yeah, that's an understatement. I feel like sometimes. Well, not as much as some people, but yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Do you enjoy traveling? Do you enjoy exploring new countries?
Oh yeah, I tend to live for it. Honestly, I live so I can have adventure. I work so I can have adventure. I feel the most alive when I'm out doing something completely different in a completely different country that I've never been in before.
How long were you in America for?
Oh, God. Let's see. I started being there around 2014, so 11 years, roughly. And it wasn't a long time until I started going full on immigration on it. Yeah. So about 11 years, I would say.
Oh, quite a long time then. So you got quite settled in then.
I did the whole marriage, immigration, building a business, divorce, expanding the business or growing the business. Yeah, I've had a lifetime there. It feels like already.
Oh, that's the full experience. That by the sounds of it, yeah, absolutely.
it's a very shortened American dream, basically.
So, have you noticed any sort of differences between the American sort of photography community, the photography culture out there, and back in Europe? Do people want the same thing, do the same thing, or is there a difference?
There's definitely a difference. I find that the American portrait community, I'm only speaking about the portrait community because that's what I know, but the American portrait community is very well developed. It's large. We have a lot of major conferences, things like that, and there's a lot of Facebook groups, and it's basically a very large community with a lot of different educators, and it's very well developed. And while I do find conferences and communities in Europe as well, I tend to have a harder time finding as many. But also, I'm still fairly new to be back. But there's definitely a mindset difference, and there is the recognition around different cultures that wants different things as from their portrait photographers, and prices and what we value and the styles that we like. All these different things are different. So it's something very interesting to take into consideration when building a business in Europe.
I suppose as an outsider, I mean, I've never been to America, but you can easily get the impression that for American culture, appearances are very important.
Yes.
So I imagine then that the portrait photography business is still quite lucrative out there.
It is, definitely. I mean, right now things are a little different, not to go further into details, but yes, right now people aren't spending as much money, but if you hit the right niches and you can potentially find something that's very, very lucrative.
Hmm. Yeah, and I've spoken before to like Gary Hughes, who's a headshot photographer, and he would like do a big convention or something out there and be shooting tens or potentially hundreds of people in over a period of a couple of days.
Oh my God.
It's not the sort of thing you really tend to get so much in the UK. I don't know about you, whether that sort of thing is that something you could imagine doing? I mean, I know it would pay well, but
No.
no. Okay, that's a
No.
quick answer.
Yeah, no. I would want to do it just as much as I would want to do a wedding.
Okay, yeah, I've never done a wedding. The number of times when people used to come up to me in sort of business networking or something, you're a photographer. Oh, you shoot weddings? Actually, no, never done one.
Never. Never. I actually have been a wedding photographer.
Oh, have you? Oh,
Yeah, that's
right.
how
You've
I
had the
started out.
experience and given it up. Right. Okay.
Yeah, well, actually, I started in Denmark as a wedding photographer, and the weddings here are much smaller. A normal-sized wedding is like 60 guests, and then I came to the US, and I second shot a few times with 250 guests, and a DJ that was announcing that groom's la-di-da was walking in with the la-di-da, and they were walking like full-on music and dancing down the steps, and I was like, nope, I'm out. I did 2 of those. And then I was like, yeah, nah. Never. Never again. So I mean, honestly, I have friends that occasionally ask me, and I'm like, yes, just because you're you.
Mm, mm.
So I've done friends' weddings and things like that because I wanted to give them that gift, but it's very different.
Yeah, yeah. It's not something that appeals to me. Too many people, for one thing.
Yes, and so many things can go wrong. Like imagine that pressure. It's insane. Oh, you messed up my entire wedding. Well, I'm gonna sue you to the end of the world and back.
Yeah, so we can. It's not like, oh, can we just reshoot that next week?
Do you have time? How's your schedule? Want
Yeah,
to do it all over again?
exactly.
Yeah, no.
So, did you find with the portraits that you were doing, the kind of packages that you were doing, is that something then that you created because that was more what you wanted to do, or did you create it because you saw a demand there?
I am a horrible business person, so I rarely create things because I see a demand for it. I do it because I want to, or honestly, for my American business, because I needed to. So I had just immigrated back in 2016. That was like when everything was finalized. I got married in April of that year. And when I got my work permit and was allowed to work, the first thing I did was to open my business because I arrived in the US with no other work experience than photography. I mean, I had a few students' jobs and things like that, but nothing huge. And my bachelor in religious studies weren't exactly applicable. Um,
Mm,
so I didn't have much of a choice. So the business that I built, I very quickly had to figure out how to make it profitable. And I found education and all these different things. And eventually I stumbled upon supervised education. And that's the model I followed to build my business. And over the years, it has had many different iterations. And I've always taken what I wanted, like what I thought, what I was thinking that worked for me, that felt right to me, and then removed everything else. So over the years, I did build a business that felt right to me at that time in that life that I was living. Was it the business that I would have built if I'd had the freedom to build exactly how I saw fit?
mm,
Probably not.
okay.
But I've always loved it. Like I loved doing what I did, and I loved my clients and the outcomes, and yeah, it was great for that time.
Are there any things that you can remember that you can think of that you thought that doesn't really work for me that you did throw out and change?
Oh yeah, plenty. Well, the first thing. So when I first did supervised education, we weren't very. We didn't have a lot of money, so I only had like $35 to spend basically, which was the cost of a month, and I had already had a portfolio, so I stayed clear of the photography videos. I am a little bit of a sponge, so I tend to, if I expose myself too much to certain styles, things like that, I start automatically mimicking it.
Right.
And so I wanted to avoid that. But even without studying the videos of like the photography videos, I still found myself seeing my style change. And I reached a point where I was like, this doesn't feel right to me. This doesn't feel like me. This is too much. I think that's my Scandinavian side coming in. And I stopped and I saw what I didn't want and I removed that. So that's definitely the aspect. There's certain verbiage that I don't use. I, for example, don't believe that it's photographers' jobs to change the way people see themselves. And I won't use those words. I won't, like, there's a lot of the language around it that is very large and very full of promises.
Mm.
I found that a lot of the marketing was too large for me. Like not in the actual physical sense, but the grandeur of it was too large for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw that my clients struggled against some of the things that I included. The hair and makeup, they loved the hair and makeup, but I often I heard them saying, this is beautiful, but this doesn't look like me. Doesn't feel like me. So I started looking for these markers that things were off. And after, I think the third time or something like that, that a different client
Mm-hmm.
said, this doesn't feel or look like me, I changed that.
Mm-hmm.
And I started instructing my hair and makeup artist in doing less. It has meant that I have gone through quite a few hair and makeup artists because most of them have a hard time understanding when I say less.
Right. Okay.
And I've been more focused on like skincare, making sure that the skin looks glowy, hydrated. I would never I don't want the matte looking face. I don't want eyelashes. I hate false eyelashes in my portraits. I've had a few clients where I allowed them to have them, but I've
Mm-hmm.
also had very specific instruction on how they were like how large they could be and things like that, simply because they don't look natural. And over the
Yeah.
years, somehow I developed a brand that focused a lot on authenticity in who my client were. Not so much, this is the best version of you. It was
Yeah.
more focused on, this is also a version of you.
So how do you get to that with the client? Do you have to spend quite a bit of time talking to them beforehand? What's your sort of, is, if there is a process, what's your sort of process of unearthing more of the real them?
Well, first off, you can't build a business like that without having a process. The process part is the most important thing you can imagine. And for me, it starts with the discovery call.
Mm-hmm.
So after a client reaches out to me, usually they schedule a discovery call. And I'm saying usually because usually they do it on their own. If they don't, I encourage it because I'm not letting them book me without that. I need to figure out and learn that we're a good fit, that what they want is actually something that I can provide. Oftentimes, I say that the discovery call is like 15 to 30 minutes long. Usually it ends up being longer, simply because for me, a big part of the process is removing layers, unmasking, removing facades, all these different things in order to reveal the person that they actually want to have photographed.
Mm-hmm.
So the discovery call is where I started. Then I have a consultation where we plan it. And that's where all the planning happens, all the like what you're gonna wear, but also more conversation. What are your insecurities? When's the last time you had your portrait taken? How do you feel about yourself in portraits? And we have a lot of conversations around that and around what they want out of these images, what they want out of the session, purposes, all these different things. And so by the time that we have the session, I'm just a friend of theirs that happened to take pictures of them. So it reduces the amount of work that I have to do at the session, even though I do still have to do quite a lot of hand-holding at the session itself. Because then again, it's about making them feel relaxed and comfortable, and very few people actually like having their images done. Everyone is nervous.
Yeah, I think most people tend to be, don't they? I mean, so do you find then with this that you're almost coaching them as well as actually working with them as a photographer? Because I mean, how many of these people are really ready when they come to you to be photographed in this way, or how many of them really actually need to be taken down that path and feel more comfortable with being more genuinely themselves?
Everyone. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter whether or not they have experience. They still need to be guided gently, and they need to be told that they're allowed to feel the things that they're feeling.
Mm.
And that is something that I've found even with people who, like models, who are very, very used to it. With the type of images that I do and that they want from me, there is still that aspect. Because they know that that's the process that I provide. So they also get a little nervous around that, because it's like I have to actually be myself here. Like,
Yeah,
I can't
yeah.
just perform. I have to show up. I have to allow myself to be seen. And I think for most people, being seen, like fully,
Mm.
that's really terrifying.
There's a vulnerability there, isn't there? Yeah.
It's all about vulnerability. Like,
Mm.
allowing yourself to be vulnerable is in my opinion the greatest what do you call it? The greatest act of rebellion in a world that kind of celebrates masks and facades and glamour and grandeur. Allowing yourself to be vulnerable and being seen like that, I feel, is incredibly powerful.
Mm. So, I mean, you mentioned about photographing models there as well. You've done quite a bit of modeling yourself.
Yes.
Have you found then that as a model that there are things that you wish photographers did differently in their approach towards you?
Oh yes. Oh, this is such an interesting subject, and I have to be slightly careful because it's also very. It's a subject that I'm incredibly passionate about,
Mm.
mainly because a lot of photographers don't actually know how to handle humans.
Mm.
And it sounds very harsh. And I want to apologize for that, because I have experienced very, very celebrated photographers not knowing that I was a photographer myself, treating me like absolutely nothing just because I was the model. Like, the fact of the matter is, I've been modeling since I was in my early 20s. I'm 36 now. I have quite a bit of experience. I haven't like constantly modeled during that time, but I've worked professionally as a model. I have an agency in New York. I used to have one in Denmark. Like, this has been part of my livelihood. And despite that, every single time to this day I step in front of the camera, I'm nervous
Mm.
because I'm human.
Yeah.
And I don't know what's going on behind the camera. I can't see. Doesn't matter how much knowledge I have. Doesn't matter even my knowledge as a photographer. I can't see. I don't know how I'm looking like in this situation. So for me, there's a huge level of insecurity and trust. And if the photographer doesn't meet that trust, then I am not going to be able to perform at my best. Now, I
Mm.
have the advantage of having a lot of experience as a model. So usually I'm able to bypass this some way or the other, because that's my job.
Mhm.
But regular people, who's never been in front of the camera, only been so a few times, they don't know how to do that. And if they are not held in this situation, you are not only risking on losing the connection with them in that moment, you're also risking damaging their sense of self, their self-worth, in a way that most photographers don't even think about. Like, we have the checklist in the back of our head. We have all these things that we're gonna get this shot on this backdrop in this set of outfits. We're gonna do this and this and this pose, and then we gotta make sure to get this and this shot, because then I can increase my revenue.
Yeah.
which is okay. We're allowed to have that checklist, and it's okay to have to want to make sure that you do a good job. But that good job, that checklist, cannot come at the expense of the human standing in front of you. So I wish that more photographers knew how to put the checklist away and just be with the human. Put the camera down. Leave your ego at the door. Because seriously, it's not about you. It's never like when you photograph clients, it is never about you. It's not about your art. To an extent, of course, yes, they're hiring you for a reason. But it's not about you. It's about them. And if you fail to make them feel relaxed and trusting and calm and beautiful or just accepted or seen, then you will lose them. And if we're going to look at the analytical part and the business aspect of it, then you will also lose revenue.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah, you scare people off, you lose clients, and it will affect your bottom line eventually.
And they tell their friends.
Well, yes, there's that too, exactly. Would you say there's a difference between then the world of fashion and the world of portraits? Is it worse in the world of fashion? In terms of how the models are being treated? Are they just expected to do things, expected to know? I mean, would you say that with your experience of modeling that you've had many photographers who've treated it like? Because when you hear it from a portrait photographer, they will often say when they do a portrait, they want to show the person, they want to reveal something about them. So would you say that goes completely when you get into the world of fashion?
Depends on the photographer, depends on the client, the person hiring us, depends on the genre. Because if you're doing lookbook, you're a mannequin. And I'm not saying this in a negative way. You, as a model, you are doing a job. And it is up to you to be able to perform, no matter what. It doesn't matter if you've been in the same pair of heels for the past 10 hours and you are running low on energy and you have modeled 50 different jackets on the hottest day of the year. That happened, by the way. It's I also done the opposite of shooting like summer, like swimwear clothes in March on one of the coldest days of the year with a, what do you call them? A strep throat. So as a professional model, there are certain things that are to be expected because it's your job, you're getting paid. And if you don't perform, you're not gonna work again. It's very simple. So, but I will say this. The people that I work with, I haven't done fashion. Like I haven't done high-end fashion, things like that. I've done commercial fashion, lookbooks, things like that. And the photographers there that I've met, most of them have been excellent. They have been wonderful people because it's all in a day's work. Like there's no, like when it's commercial, it's just a little more chill. And I've always enjoyed it quite a bit. I've always loved my commercial clients. My favorite is to do beauty work because that's just so much fun. So there's different expectations that are fair to have. My problem arises often at conferences and things like that when I see photographers who doesn't necessarily do it for a living or who are trying to make it for a living are more focused on certain genres that's not so much portrait focused, that they tend to either expect the same things of the models there, and often those are doing it voluntarily, or they don't know how to approach the model. Like, for example, in a photo bay or something like that, they just walk up and start shooting without even introducing themselves. That's the minimum. That's like the bare minimum. Introduce yourself. Hi, how are you? How's your day like? Are you okay? You need a water? Like, just be a human for a moment. And that, I've seen that a lot at conferences. There's this lack of understanding of the fact that there's a human performing over and over again with hundreds and hundreds of photographers. It's exhausting. It's draining. And they're freaking troopers.
Yeah, I think as well with a lot of the time when people are starting out and they might first come across something like this at a conference or at a camera club where there's a lot of them doing it,
Yeah.
and they're staring at their camera, they come up, take a shot or two, and then walk away staring at their camera. You think, to start with, remember as a human being the other
Yeah.
side. Yes, you want to learn lighting and this, that, and the other, but if you don't connect, you're never going to get a great image anyway.
No. No. And frankly, it's dehumanizing.
Mm.
And that is what I kind of want to fight against in the industry. Because having been on both sides and having friends that are on both sides, I know the impact of that. I felt the impact of that. It has made it so I don't really want to do conference work either.
Mm-hmm.
It's simply not worth it. And the fact of the matter is when you're in a photo booth or at a photo walk or things like that, you're all going to get the same image, except if you choose to try to do something different. And I don't know, maybe like connect, talk, communicate. Hi, how are you?
Yeah.
It's very simple.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. When people start out with lighting, and they get so freaked out by having all these lights around, and often it's difficult for them to imagine what it's going to be because modeling lights are perhaps not very strong, so they're trying to guess what's going to happen when the flash goes off. How's it all going to look? And then they might even use a light meter here, there, and everywhere. And they're busy doing all of that. They might be making sure the background's right and they've got the right settings on the camera and so on. You think, don't miss out on just interacting with your subject.
Yeah, imagine that. And,
yes.
Honestly, in my opinion, if you have 3 minutes or 2 minutes, if you have 2 minutes with a model in a photo bay, put down your camera for one of the minute and have a conversation first. You can do a lot in a minute. I used to be a school photographer and we had a very short amount of time with these kids, but we also had the rule that we were never allowed to just ask them to smile. So in a very short amount of time, we were to make them laugh or smile naturally. It can be done. I mean, sometimes we have to be a little silly to do it.
Sure.
And it doesn't even have to be the smiling part, but like just give instructions. Say, hey, this is the mood that I'm going for. I love your facial structure, and I think with what you're wearing, this could look really cool. I want to explore that with you. Are you open to that? That right there is like, holy hell! Now I'm like part of the concept of the vision.
Yeah.
And absolutely, let's do that. Let's try this. Okay, can I see? Yes, cool, perfect. This is beautiful. Let me try this. And as a model, suddenly it becomes a co-creation. And that's when we shine. That's when we are our best. Like, I've had a lot of photographers take portraits of me. I don't like a lot of them. I mean, I don't hate them. I just, I'm indifferent towards them.
Yeah. Well, it's the thing. It is that kind of natural body language that comes through in interaction versus the kind of staged body language. People can kind of fake a smile. Some people can do it very well, but it still isn't a real one. So it comes across differently. And for me, I mean, I avoid being photographed as much as possible. I just really don't like it. And what I've found, I'm definitely not a model, but what I find very difficult is if a photographer has wanted to take a picture of me and they tell me to smile, I can't fake a smile very easily at all. I just kind of freeze.
Yeah.
And I can't. You think, well, I can't be the only one. So, why do people just expect people to smile on demand? Interact with them.
and frankly, that right there, to me, like, is the argument why you should be in front of the camera more. Because one of the number one ways that we can put ourselves in the shoes of our clients or the models we're photographing is by being photographed ourselves. Feel the discomfort. Be in that discomfort.
Yeah.
Like. Yeah. Feel what it feels like to be awkward and not knowing what to do with your hands. Like, what do I do with these?
Try doing the pose for the model to mirror, and you think, well, if you feel really uncomfortable doing that, or if it even hurts or something, how's the other person going to feel?
Yeah, exactly. But like, every photographer needs to be in front of a camera every once in a while, not just once. It has to happen every once in a while. They need to be reminded what it feels like, feels like being vulnerable. Because no matter if you're allowing yourself to open up and be seen and be authentic and all these different things, the act of stepping in front of the camera is an act of vulnerability.
Yeah.
So all photographers needs to be photographed, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, I kind of get away with it because I photograph things and buildings.
Okay, fine.
And,
you can't have conversations with a table.
If you start talking to bottles of beer, then it looks like you've drunk too many of them. So it's, and the posing, let's face it, is kind of wooden and rigid.
Stiff.
Yeah, a little bit stiff in those situations. So, yeah, I'll stick by that as my excuse, I think.
Hey, that's a decent excuse if I've ever heard one.
Thank you. Right, we'll move on before you can find an exception. Now, other areas of your work as a photographer include sort of not just your sort of editorial style portraits and sort of what people might call like branding portraits and so on, but actually getting into the more sort of intimate and boudoir kind of styles. So, could you sort of describe your approach to that sort of genre?
It is exactly like my approach to everything else. Get to know them, make them feel comfortable, talk them through it. Though there is the added layer of consent. That's a huge importance. Don't touch. I mean, that goes even if you're photographing someone fully clothed. Always ask permission to change the hair or remove like a crease from the shirt or something like that. Always ask permission to do those things. It's part of making someone feel comfortable in your presence. Yeah, I mean, of course, the settings are often different, but there isn't much different in the process. The process remains the same because no matter if people are choosing to take their clothes off or not, they still feel vulnerable and needs to be supported in that. So on that end, it's actually very, very, very similar. And frankly, oftentimes my intimate portraits happen as an extension of a personal branding shoot. It doesn't always happen on purpose, as in we haven't always planned for it. I had one coming in for personal branding, very, very cool portraits, and by the end of the session she was naked on the floor.
Fair enough.
It was, I mean, I got a little bit of whiplash from that transition, but but the point remains the same. Because I have done the work prior, she is now comfortable enough to both do personal branding with me and reveal the more like personal, authentic self of her, and then also be comfortable enough in my company to reveal that side of her. And that is the greatest proof, first of all, that it's working, that the process has been done right, but it's also the greatest act of trust. I think that's really beautiful.
I think that's a really helpful way of putting it. As somebody who doesn't really do these genres, sort of seeing them connected in that way, to me makes a lot of sense. And wonder why people don't connect them with that same kind of ethos, because you think it just makes total sense.
I don't actually distinguish between, like, the only reason why you see distinguishing between the genres on my website is because that's what people want. They want to see these things. I don't actually distinguish between them when I'm actively working. Personal branding often goes into editorial portraits. That often goes into something third, fourth, or fifth. So I like the fluidity of that process. I guess I do have kind of a checklist in my head, but it's a very, very loose checklist. It's like, okay, we need to get these images, but after that is free play. And that's often the images that my clients want, and it's often where they're the most at ease.
So you also help people learn to create better portraits and so on. I mean, what do you enjoy about the process of teaching? I suspect part of it is sharing your ethos with them and so on. But why do you teach?
Let me put it this way: if I wasn't a photographer, I would be a teacher. Teaching is in my bones, in my blood. Sharing knowledge is such a big part of who I am and always have been. No matter if I have a camera in my hands or not, I have taught school children as well. There is magic in sharing. There is magic in seeing people's eyes light up when they get it. Of course, the people that I teach now are fellow portrait photographers, and a large part of what I teach is exactly what we're talking about today, is how to connect, how to treat people like they're humans, understanding the mechanisms that takes place when you're being photographed. So some of the lessons are a little harsher or heavier or different, but there's still the light in the eyes, realizing something, learning new tools to implement. For me, that energetic synchronicity that just happens in the room when everyone is aligned and open and ready to learn, that is a drug for me. Not gonna lie. There are very few greater feelings than being in a room full of people who are inspired and passionate, wants to learn and wants to share. Because I learn so much when I teach. Like that is the other part of it. I learn so much, things that I didn't know that I needed to know. That's the beauty of it.
Yeah, I think I've experienced it kind of similarly. I love teaching. I love being able to share knowledge, share my enthusiasm with something,
Hence the podcast.
with people. Yeah, and it is a great feeling when somebody gets something and when someone creates something that they're proud of.
Yeah.
And yes, you're right, you do keep learning. You're not just there as the guru who's telling everybody how to do it perfectly. It's you come into situations because you've got other people there with you who are doing things you don't normally do. You come across potentially new problems to solve, or new approaches, somebody doing something you just don't think of because that's not the way you work.
Exactly.
So it's a great way to keep yourself fresh, I think, as well, as to actually teach others.
I often find, I realized, like, when I first started out, I was scared of what if they ask me a question I don't have the answer to, or that I disagree with, or something like that. And when the questions inevitably came up, I realized that even the process of finding the answers to these questions was giving me a high. And having that conversation and asking for clarification. And I think in these situations, the most important thing for me is to keep being open to learning, to being open to being wrong. Like, that's another big part of it. Like when I teach, again, I leave my ego at the door because it's not about me. It's never about me.
It's about facilitating things for other people. It's not a brain dump.
No, no. Oh God, no. That would mean our brains went bleh.
Exactly. Yeah. No one wants that.
No. I like it when it's interactive, and I've seen my students, my attendees at workshops, things like that, come up with new ideas that I've been like, oh yes, okay, yes, continue on, please, because this is magnificent and this is incredibly inspiring.
You're sitting there making notes, are you?
Yeah. It's a process of give and take. It's very human, and I like human.
So, do you find? Presumably you've taught people from different kind of backgrounds, different cultures. I mean, do you find they interact with you differently, or that different people have different expectations from workshops, that like perhaps people expect it to be like teaching information? Or well,
first of all, it doesn't matter which culture you're from or which background you're from. Every single person learns differently from the next.
Yeah, exactly.
And big part of what I do prior to workshops, prior to clients even, is teaching. Like, I educate through my website. I put out words that I tell them exactly what to expect. And then when they have question, I answer those questions as thoroughly as I can. Because, as you said, different people have different expectations, but a way that I can manage those expectations is by making sure that it's very clear what they shouldn't expect. So on my workshop page, for example, I have a section that says what this workshop is not about.
Yeah.
Because I think that potentially is more important than knowing what it is about.
Yeah.
So, and then it's about adapting to each individual, having conversation with each individual, be like, okay, is there anything that you want to know specifically? Like, I'm always open for questions. I'm always open for conversations. So to me, making sure that everyone is getting something out of it. I always check in throughout. I'm like, okay, so we are this far through, like it's the end of the first day. Is there anything you would like for me to touch upon tomorrow that I haven't done so far? And I think having that level of fluidity, things can change, helps my students feel like they're getting what they need out of it. And different people need different things. I had one, he was like, well, actually, that first half of the first day is exactly what I came for. It's exactly what I needed. Everything else is just a perk. Like, okay, cool, you're covered then.
Fine. Yeah.
Where I've had others being like, okay, but I'm still lacking this one thing. I'm still not understanding or grasping this one thing. Can you help me understand? And then I have to figure out if I'm actually able to answer that question. And I can only do it at to my best ability, because, like, yeah, I have a long experience of these things, but I don't know everything. Surprise.
No, none of us do. What would you say then is your learning style?
Communicative, I think, is the right word for it. It's conversational. My learning style is conversational in the sense that through conversation, it is revealed how to approach things. I mean, I start out usually with introduction, like for example, with my human connection workshop, it's about learning how to connect. And so the first thing I do is telling people why it's important to connect. And then I ask them to go out and do it. And for example, I had a workshop in November back in Connecticut, and it was fully booked. There was a ton of people in the room, and the people that I had brought in as models were my friends, and some of them were my clients. Actual paying clients. And this was important for me, because one of the things that I'm trying to teach is how to work with regular people with regular insecurities. So for me, having regular people with regular insecurities come in and be guinea pigs, so to speak. I mean, they were very they were consenting in that.
Yeah.
But that was an incredibly important part of the lesson. So there is an aspect of talking, having conversation, and then there's an aspect of implementation. But not just saying, here is a model, photograph her like you see fit. And for example, I don't allow people to photograph or shoot over each other's shoulders. That's a no-go.
Yeah. No, that annoys me. I don't like that. No.
But yeah, and then it's just allowing people to, like, one of the hardest things that I think I've discovered when I teach is letting go, releasing control of the outcome, and allowing people to learn what they want to learn. Because there will be deviations from the schedule. There will be changes to which subjects to approach. And allowing that fluidity to be there is important.
Yeah, it's that allowing people to be human thing again, isn't it, really? Everybody's starts from a different place and needs different things, and it's being open to that. So what about for yourself? How do you feed yourself? How do you keep yourself growing?
Oh, usually it's by doing personal projects. If I'm not careful, I burn out. That's currently kind of where I am. Teaching feeds me, I will say that. These types of conversations that we have right here feeds me. But I often have to look at something completely different to keep growing. Like, I paint and draw a lot. And I do completely different from what I photograph. That's something that keeps me on my toes. But honestly, I have been doing this for so long now, and it has been such a vital part. Like, it's like, while I was married, my business was incredibly important, so I could help provide. And then after I got divorced, my business was incredibly important, so I could live and keep sustaining the lifestyle of going back and forth between Scandinavia and the US. It didn't leave much room for actual proper reflection and giving myself more time to learn. So I'm in a process now where I'm like, okay, cool. I am paying for that now. But I try to do personal projects. That's a very long answer to a very short question.
No, that's absolutely fine. Yeah. So when you start to reach a point of burnout, is that something you can see coming, or is it something that suddenly overwhelms you? And then once you're aware you're at that stage, is there anything you can do to de-stress? Or
well, the way I see it, burnout can arrive at different levels. As in, it can be a small burnout. Like, for example, back in 23, I was fully booked and I started realizing that I couldn't distinguish one client from the next. And that's when I realized that I need to not take on so many clients. So that was like, oh, wait a second, now we need to step back. So there's those small stages that I can recognize as they happen. What I'm experiencing now is a full-blown 11 years worth of working myself to the bones, working my adrenal glands to the bones. Just immigration alone will do that to you. So now I'm actually in a stage of my career where I'm like, okay, what would it look like if I changed everything and made it exactly as I want it to be without being worried about money? And that might mean allowing myself to do something different for a short period of time, just to reset.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very difficult going through something like that because, you're not sure whether you can try and get back to where you were before, but then part of you thinks, I don't know if that's possible. Certainly this has been my experience sort of over the past couple of years, really. Similarly, I was in a position where I was doing very well, if you like to label it that way. I had plenty of jobs coming in, financially doing very well, but then realized actually I'd got the business kind of set up for stuff that wasn't really what got to the heart of me.
Yeah.
Yes, you need to earn money, but beyond having enough, for me, I'm not interested.
Yeah.
Really. So
it's so
getting to a point where you're earning a bit more, or just to say you're earning a bit more, and then you realize actually that I'm not catering for my own love of learning. I'm not catering to my own curiosity and other strengths and things that I have, that I'm actually all the time giving things that are depleting me. You really do have to stop and think in those situations, don't you? Because going back, you think, well, if I go back, is it just going to happen again?
And yes, it will, because we change as humans.
Yeah.
You know how everyone talks about creating a sustainable business, a financially sustainable business. You need to charge your worth. You need to put value out there. You need to do the thing. You need to grow, expand. You need to keep doing it. And I'm like, first of all, a business needs to be sustainable financially as well as mentally. It needs to feed your life, your wallet, and your soul. Or you need to find something that's completely different from your business that can feed your soul. But most business owners don't have time for that. So I think it's important that we start asking ourselves, do I really want more? And what does more look like? What is enough to me? Because I fell into that whole, like, okay, I need to keep growing. And now I need the studio, and maybe at some point I definitely need the 6 figures, and then maybe I need the 7 figures, and then I need the associate shooter with the 3 assistants and 5 hair and makeup artists on call. And okay, maybe I should expand to a different country. I'm getting tired just thinking about them. So every single person, every single photographer needs to ask themselves, what is enough? What do I actually want? And fact of the matter is, we often need less than we think. Safety, which is often what we correlate money with, is an arbitrary size, and it's often an illusion. Something can happen tomorrow that will ruin you. Or you can keep building and keep building and keep building, and eventually you cannot keep building anymore, and you wound up in bed for a year, burned out from stress. I've known people where that happened to them. We need to take care of ourselves in these situations. And I don't think that the world, as it has been up until very recently, has been sustainable for anyone. So as creatives, people who are often artistic, we need to make sure that we can build something that we can keep existing in.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard.
Yeah, it's really, really important because, if we don't take other aspects of ourselves into account, if we just follow a model which we think is going to sort of guarantee us financial success, then we can actually end up being unhappy while we're at our most successful.
Yes.
It's just that's how it was for me. And then when I suddenly reached a point where I got a text from a client, and it wasn't even a bad text. It was just a text, please call me.
Oh,
and I find that sort of thing difficult at the best of times. But I actually, at that particular point in time, I froze and I couldn't speak for an hour or so afterwards. I just couldn't even explain to my wife what was going on. And that's that kind of level that it had been building up to that I'd kind of not really been fully aware of, that you're in a position where it's not like, oh, I better ease off the business a bit. It's a case of you're going to have to shut everything down now because you cannot function.
Yeah.
So if you don't put things in place to be resilient beforehand, life's potentially going to make you do it like that, the hard way,
Honestly, that's kind of where I am. Like, I'm not all the way down. Well, as you can tell, I'm able to speak, but I am at that point where I'm like, I don't want to go back. I can't go back. I am at the point where I want to burn everything I created to the ground and create something new that feels entirely like myself. I am so exhausted from performing, from masking, from keeping up facades of professionalism and all these different things. So I'm actually actively taking steps to burn down my business.
Well, you've moved away from America, which is where a lot of it was.
It's true. It's very true. And I don't even know if like I can't right now. I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. Like I don't know what the next iteration of my business is gonna be.
Yeah,
and that's okay. Sitting in that discomfort and learning to allow yourself to not knowing. Even though it feels unsafe, and even though you're scared of the future, those things, allowing those feelings to be present, is vital for your mental health, for your state of being.
And it's actually a realization of the truth is that there is no such thing as guaranteed stability.
Yeah.
Businesses and so on might talk about an economy and saying we need certainty. There's no such thing.
No.
It's an illusion. It's everything can look like it's stable, but it can fall apart at any time. And then when you get to that stage and realize that there isn't this certainty, there isn't this stability that we all kind of imagine is there, it is a little bit easier then, I think, to sort of ease off the gas a bit and look for a new way. I think it's really important to get in touch with what brings you to life.
Yeah.
Because all too often people do things that diminish them rather than build them up, rather than enable them to bring their own unique contribution. It's like with strengths and weaknesses. A lot of people want to focus on the weaknesses. They say, oh, I need to do that. I get that up to a higher level. And you think, well, there's so many things that we're not good at.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who you are. But there's a few things that each person is uniquely good at.
That's very true.
Why not focus on the things that you're uniquely good at that bring you that energy back, that bring you to life? Put more time into that because it's already at a high level. So making it grow is easier rather than something that you're crap at and then you're going to just wallow through slowly plodding, trying desperately to get better so it's at a level where it's vaguely acceptable.
I kind of feel there's something to be said about following the path of least resistance in these situations. Like sometimes I have found in my life that if I keep struggling against something, I feel like I can't quite get there. I'm not entirely satisfied. Not that there's such a thing, but I'm not satisfied with the work that I'm putting out. And how everything feels. It's usually because I'm actually not on the right path. And this is not to get woo-woo, but it is to get a little woo-woo. There's something to be said about allowing energy to flow. And if we keep struggling against mediocrity, for example, doing that thing that we think we're supposed to be doing, like, for example, me in weddings, keeping doing it despite not enjoying it, despite not getting fueled by it, not being good at it, like not being bad at it either, but not being great at it, then maybe it's something that needs to go. And that's actually that's when I talk about burning the past iteration of my business down to the ground. This is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the fact that sometimes we need to look at everything that we have, everything that we build, and figure out what to keep.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then remove the things that is restricting airflow.
Yeah, I mean,
strangling you.
We are quite. Yeah, I mean, we are beings that crave meaning, that want purpose for things. And if we get into this kind of way of operating like a machine, so you're just doing stuff, that meaning and purpose gets sidelined for a bit. But it's something that we can't ignore, really. It doesn't matter whether you view that from a religious point of view or from a spiritual point of view, whether you're talking about it sort of in terms of the scientific studies that have been done of people and what actually a difference it makes to your immune system, depending on what mood you're in, and all these kinds of things. You don't have to be a sort of quote unquote spiritual person or whatever to benefit from any of this at all. It's kind of, in a way, it feels like stating the obvious that going after what energizes you and what you're good at and what you do is actually a good thing.
Imagine that. Oh my. I will also say that not all photographers or anyone, but like especially photographers, I usually say there are two types of photographers. They're the business people who find that photography is a great medium for their business, and they enjoy it, and they can be fueled by that level of creativity. But first and foremost, they're business people. I know quite a few of those, and I envy them because it's a little easier for them. Yes. And then there are the artists who has the medium of photography as their chosen skill. And that's different because it usually means that we are artists that are trying to also be business people, and that's difficult because those two skills are often opposing to each other. But we just have to make sure that we take those things into account. And no matter if you're a business person who are great at what you do and you run full speed ahead, you still need to be able to breathe every once in a while. Like this year and last year. Yeah, because I just did my tax return. Last year I was at my lowest income in my business since 2020. And I am so at peace with it because I'm still able to survive. Like one of the reasons why I moved to Sweden was to be able to have less. I need to earn less money here to thrive. So those money went further, of course. But also letting go of that desire to perform. I need the 6 figures. I need to be wealthy. I need to do this and this and this and this. Letting go of that and just sitting out on my front steps, drinking my coffee in the morning, looking around and listening to birds and all that crap feels so right in a way that 6 figures never did, because I've had both.
Well, you can define your own sense of what is success. And then for many people, they get drawn into the 6-figure, 7-figure business as that's their definition of success. And they're the type of people they want to follow because they think, oh, well, they are successful. Therefore, I want to be successful. And it's all about that. And you think, well, it depends.
Yeah.
That might be for you. It might be for a part of your life or something like that, but it might be something different. For some people, success is simply being able to do what you love doing day in, day out, and not be getting into debt doing it.
Imagine that.
Simply that,
Wow, what a! I think you're being a little crazy right now. Like that sounds insane. Like,
bit radical.
You're radical. I think we can't have this conversation. I think we might get like booted out.
Yeah. I mean, happiness, I think, is being taken out of the dictionary, and we don't need all that kind of thing.
Who needs happiness anyway? Who needs mentally sustainable businesses? Like, you just need to produce money. No, I think it's so, like, having these types of conversations are important, because when I started learning back in like the model that I currently have in my business, IPS, all these different things, when I first started learning about all of that, a sustainable business and how to run it, I thought I needed all these things, and the educators that were out there only spoke about that. And that has left me for years feeling like there's something missing out. There's a conversation not being had. Because if apparently, according to a lot, if I don't do these things, I'm a failure. I'm not doing enough. I am not valuing myself enough. I am not charging enough. I am not being good enough at communicating with my clients, and so forth and so on. I'm not charging enough. But these conversations that we're having right now, I think they are as important, if not more important, than knowing how to earn the money. It's important to know that if you don't feel like doing the things that other people's measurement of success is measured up against, then that's okay, because you can build the business exactly to suit your needs. You just need to be brave enough to have the conversation with others and yourself to figure out how you want to do it and why you want to do it. And it's uncomfortable.
Yeah, but if you're somebody who wants logical, rational things, evidence behind this, if you're somebody who thinks, hang on a minute, this isn't scientific, and money, that's all scientific, I can see how that works. It's, well, look up things like the correlation between increase in well-being versus increase in GDP in countries.
Oh, jeez.
The GDP might go up and up and up. Countries might get richer. Does the overall measurement of well-being go up at the same rate?
No.
It certainly does not. Studies have been done by organisations such as Gallup about using your strengths at work, and the difference it can make. Okay, if you're that way minded, the difference it can make to your bottom line is huge. Never mind the other aspects, which are your well-being, your engagement, your satisfaction with what you're doing, your relationship with others. So, this isn't some kind of silly made-up sort of flight of fantasy or something like that. This is stuff that has been proven to be good for people, and it even works if you're a staunch capitalist. It even works then. You don't have to give up your love of money if you really, really don't want to. It's still good for that too.
I'll say this: like, that's actually one of the starkest contrasts. That when I first came to the US, I'm from a Scandinavian country. Like, we're very much about a work-life balance. Like, it's usually quoted that most people have around 6 weeks of vacation every year. Our full work week is 37 hours. There's a lot of benefits to having been raised in Scandinavia: universal healthcare, universal education, so forth, so on. So I am raised with that mindset, and I'm also raised by parents that have and I've gained that mindset that's we have to, as a society, live together. We have to live together. So I, like, in the US, I have been very lovingly called little commie. So I came to the US and I was building a business, which is one of the, like, it's a very stark thing to do when you come from a different background. And so I had to face the American culture of work ethics or lack of such. I was faced with the whole, okay, I need to work this and this and this and much, and I need to be successful and earn money and earn a lot of them, and I need to be wealthy, and I need to have this big house, and I need to live in Western Connecticut, which is like one of the wealthiest towns, and all these different things that wasn't actually something that I wanted. I just thought that I should want it now that I lived in the US. And also the whole US system made me really insecure around money. So having seen those contrasts and realizing just how much, even as a Scandinavian that had the ability to build my own business in the US on my terms, which meant a lot of rest, even that was like, this is actually too much. I'm still burning out. I am still burying myself in pressure from somewhere arbitrary.
Yeah, I think in many ways it can help to surround yourself with people who sympathise with these things, and that's not to say we all did retreat into an echo chamber so we can all pat each other on the back and say life's wonderful and all that kind of thing. If you're in a culture which can feel at times like a bit of a runaway train, or everybody around you is pushing in a particular direction, it can mentally feel hard to swim against the tide. So find your people.
Yes,
I would say to people, whoever your tribe are, find your people.
Yeah, definitely.
And that, yeah. So, I mean, we've covered quite a lot of ground there, really. Sort of put the world to rights and all that kind of stuff. So, so let's bring it squarely back to you. So, with all of this going on at the moment, do you have in mind goals? Do you have aims of where you want to be in the not too distant future?
Of course I do. I mean, yeah. My goals are just a little more, arbitrary now. They're a little looser. I want more time. I want more freedom to do and explore and see, be. I want more presence with my family, my friends, myself. I want to build a business that feels like something that's an extension of myself more than something that I forced onto myself. And I'm not entirely sure what that looks like yet. I want enough to survive and be comfortable and have the lifestyle that I want. But I'm not going to run myself to the ground doing so.
I don't blame you.
Right?
Yeah, I don't blame you. So if people aren't familiar with your work, where's a good place for them to go and see some examples of your portraits and boudoir? And
so, interestingly enough, I just changed my Instagram handle, but Instagram is usually the place to go for that. And I'm not very active these days, but I will be, and big changes are coming, I think, because I'm going to bring myself more into it and have more little outbursts from my life as well. But my Instagram is Sissela Johansson. Actually, Sissela.Johansson. Sorry, I had to remember that. And then I have my website, bysissela.com.
So presumably, if you're going to do any more teaching and all that, you advertise that on your workshop and on your social?
Absolutely, I do, yeah. And it's definitely something that's going to happen. I was supposed to do a workshop in Munich, but I am actually not in a place where I feel comfortable doing it, because I am going through so many transitions right now, and I want to be fully present when it happens. So I am probably either going to do that workshop in Munich either in September or next year. So that's something that I'm looking very much forward to, and seeing what it's going to look like at that time. But yes, I announce it on my website. I announce it on my socials. And if you want to come on my mailing list, you can always message me, and I'll put you up so you can get all the info when they happen.
Thank you for being willing to come on and talk to us at this sort of time of transition, and that for yourself. I think it's really valuable for people to see behind the glitzy headlines and the websites and everything. You know, they can see your images and see you're a great photographer. They can see pictures of you modeling and see you're a great model and so on. But we so rarely know what really goes on sort of behind the scenes with people. So I just want to thank you for being so open and sharing so much with our listeners. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Really good having you on. And thank you everybody for listening. This is the Focus Professional Podcast.